Well, hello. Oops, God, I can't. That was a bit loud. Hello. Hello, can you see and hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Not necessarily a good thing, but I can see and hear you, that's a good thing for me. Okay, welcome back. It's lovely to see you all. We've had a big break from Big Q qualitative as you dived back in to quantitative. So it's nice to see that you've survived that. So we've got Peter, Amelia, Melissa, Michael, Sandra. We've got the people in we've got the huddle in Townsville. Hello, and we've got Yvonne. So welcome everybody. It's great to see you. So let's get into this. So this week this week and next week we're back on Big Q qualitative, and our focus for these 2 weeks, week 7 and week 8. I told you I was no good with numbers. Week 7 and week 8 is to help you prepare for assessment 2, the thematic analysis assessment, which is handed in before you do assessment 3. That's how numbers work, I think. So I think it's week 10, isn't it? Week 10, you hand in the thematic analysis, week 12 for the interview. So these 2 weeks are all about the thematic analysis to help you complete that assessment. And just to give you a little reminder, you're not going to be able to read this if you're on a small screen, but don't worry, this is mostly for people who are watching the recording. It's just a reminder of the week we're in and the reading for this week. And also to remind you about the recording, because we haven't been together for a while. So I'm only recording my video feed in the introduction and the bit after we've come out of the breakout room. So that's the only bit that I record, and I only record my video feed. But if you speak when we're in the main room, then you're going to be included in the recording. And anything that goes into chat, it's real, honestly. It's real. I can touch it. Look, anything that goes into chat that I can see, anyone watching the recording can see, and anyone here today can see when we're in the main room. So, and also the recordings, they go up on to YouTube, but it's an unlisted video, which means only people who have the link on Moodle can view the video. So, and you can view it directly through Moodle as well. You don't have to come out of Moodle to view it. You can just hit play in Moodle. But just don't share the link with people outside of the unit, just to respect people's privacy within the unit. So are we ready to whiz through the agenda? And then we'll just see if there are any questions or concerns before we begin in. Oh, Townsville, I love the way they've just decided to zoom in on you. That was dramatic. Have you learnt where the zoom is? You've learnt where the zoom pedal is, have you? Is that, or is someone else in control? Obviously, you haven't learnt where the microphone pedal is. Okay. It's fantastic. It was a dramatic zoom. Fantastic. I wish people who are watching the recording could see it. It was very kind of, yeah, that was your close-up. That was fantastic. Okay, so let's whiz through our agenda for today. And we have, let's start off with the rules. Here we go. I know it's boring, but it's been a while since we've met, and not everyone has been here before. So the rules are fairly simple. We'll be working in the breakout rooms again today. I'm just going to put up in chat our rules. And, oh, I forgot to send my welcome message. There's my little welcome message. And if it's working today, the rules are up in chat and the agenda's up in chat. Okay, so we're going to be working in our small breakout rooms again. And just remember when you go into the breakout room to keep a note of the number of the group that you're in, or a note of the names of the people in your group. So if your internet drops out, you go back to this main room, there'll be no one here. I'll come in and fetch you, but I need to know what group to put you back into. So just remember to do that. And Townsville, you happy being in a group? A little mini actual live proper, not a virtual group, but a physical group. Not physical as in don't start hitting each other, but you know what I mean. Okay. I don't want to see it. As long as I don't see it, I don't have to do anything about it. So you just turn off the camera when you want to start beating each other up. Okay. So our agenda. Let's get to that. So this is up on Moodle. Again, it's very small on the screen here. So if you go to Moodle and look for page week 7, and you'll see the agenda in detail, and it's also up in chat. So this is about the transcript. So what I wanted you to do is read the transcript before today. We'll see how that goes when you're in your group. There's probably not enough time today for you to read the transcript and then to go through this activity. So I'm hoping you've read the transcript. And I've got a number of questions that I want you to go through in relation to the transcript. Just before I go through them, I just want to give you a reminder of the things that are up on Moodle this week. So this week we've got audio recordings rather than videos. There's a number of reasons for that. One of the reasons is to save time for me, because video editing takes forever. But part of the assessment too, there's a criteria on the visualization. It's not a big part of the assessment, but it's a bit of the assessment where you do a visualization. And if I do a visualization for you, if I'm using video, there's always the temptation for me to start visualizing things for you. And I want you to do the visualizing, because that's what I'm going to assess you on. So that's one of the reasons why it's audio. But it's also, I think it's easier for you to access. I'm hoping it is, because I'm expecting we're now coming to the pointy end of the unit when assessments start building up, and you've probably got assessments coming in for other units if you've got other units on the go. So I'm wanting to kind of respect your time as well. And sometimes it's easier just to take in an audio recording rather than have to sit in front of a screen. So you can do the washing up whilst you're listening to the audio recording for this week. So there's 2 audio recordings. Just to warn you, it's on Moodle. There's a warning on Moodle about the second recording. And that's where I get mixed up. I tell you that you're going to get low marks for doing latent coding and high marks for doing semantic coding. That's wrong. You're going to get high marks for doing latent coding and lower marks if it's just semantic coding. So that's one mistake. And there's also, I refer to the transcript, and I say at the end of the transcript, there's this note that says the transcript ends because the audio recording stopped. But for some reason, that text got chopped off the transcript. It's not important, but I just don't want you to get confused when you listen to that recording. Basically, the point I was trying to make was that often when you're doing an interview and you're audio recording, the audio recorder fails for some reason. So it's just to alert you to the fact that when you're in the field and you're doing an interview, often you'll find that the audio recording fails for some reason. So it's just my little way of bringing that point in. So that's all really to say about that. So the questions I've got for you, I want you to look at the transcript and then to think about, first question, how would you have answered the first question differently? And what you'll see there is that there isn't really a first question in the transcript. There's a kind of an invitation. So the interviewer invites the person to talk about the topic. So that's the first thing to note about that. And I hope you kind of take the lesson from that in terms of how you conduct your own interview. So there, think about how you would have taken up that invitation to start speaking about the topic. And the second question is, did anything surprise you about how the interviewee talked about the topic? Did they say things that maybe you wouldn't have said? And if yes, what was it? What surprised you about what they said? And then the third question is, how would you have answered, how will your answers to questions 1 and 2 here, how will that inform your analysis? And it might help you there if you look at the marking rubric. Can I risk trying to open this up live? Yes, I can. I did my homework. Okay, so I want you to look at these 2 criteria, commitment and rigor, criticality and coherence, because that's a focus for today. And think about what those criteria, how those might relate to this. And so the first one, I'll just pick out the HD category. It's too small for you to read on my screen. But the HD category is an exceptional level of in-depth engagement with a topic professionally and personally. There's a key there, maybe, to how the answer to the question 1 and question 2 might inform that criteria. Avoids letting the data speak for itself or using summative or descriptive commentary. So what I'm keying in there is that professionally and personally, how you engage with the transcript. And the second one is criticality, coherence. Analysis has clarity and contains a rhetorically powerful, convincing interpretation of the data, makes exceptional use of counter-arguments and defending against those alternative interpretations. So again, think about that criteria when you're talking through some of those surprises that you found. Okay. Does that make sense, or does that make enough sense? Turn the ticker off. Enough sense for you to begin to go into the working groups? If you got any questions, any comments? I think we're okay. Welcome, Yvonne. Can you come in? That's great. Okay, so we're kind of... you've done quantitative. You've lost the power of speech, haven't you? That's what's happened. You can only speak in numbers. So give me a 1 for yes and a 0 for no. Is that you only think in binaries now? We've got a... So there's a 1. No one's doing it. Whoops. I'm going to have to blur that out on the video now. I'll get in trouble again. I'll go in front of the disciplinary committee. So no one... Everyone avoided the temptation.
Oh, you got into big trouble.
Say again? Say, Amelia?
I said, be careful, Paul. When they check your recording.
Thankfully, this wasn't me. My hands were off, but your audio broke up. So when they're listening to the recording, they didn't hear your comment. They'll think I censored you out now. That's what they'll think I did. Yes, we're going to have to edit this recording, aren't we? Okay. So I think we're good to go. So now is the frustrating bit. I'm just preparing a couple of videos on my YouTube channel on analysis, and they might go up in the next week, which is talking through that process of doing semantic and latent coding. If anyone here would like to see the script for the video before the video goes up, let me know sometime during today. And then I'll put the script up on Moodle. So it'll just be my script for the video. So you get that early. Does that make sense? You might actually just prefer the script than the video. Anyway. Okay. So now here's the interesting bit where I put people into groups. Now, when we come out of the groups, we'll stay in our groups till about 1:45. So give us about half an hour. And then... we'll have 15 minutes back in the main group, and then at 2:00, some of you will have to leave. I can stay probably only until about 2:10 today because I've got another appointment coming soon after today's meeting. So I can hand hosting over to anyone in the room. And next week I'll try and stay longer if you need me to stay longer, because that'll be our final session. So I'm imagining there might be anxiety coming in relation to the assessments. Does that sound fair? Okay, here we go. So now we're a nice small group with a select. We've managed to get rid of the faint-hearted ones, haven't we? So here we go. This can't be that difficult for me because there's... How many of us are there? You'd be good at this. Come on, you can help me. How many of us are there? Michael, was that like a rapper kind of yo? Or was that... Oh, that's numbers, isn't it? This is...
Something like that, yeah, something like that.
Yo. Was that 10? Was that...
I think it was 10, yeah.
It was
That's
10.
what I tried to do.
So 2 groups of... What do you reckon? 2 groups of 5? Or 3 groups of 3 or 4?
2 or 5.
2 of 5. Okay. And here we go. Right, where's my button? Right. I'm going to have to... Where's my soothing music? Where's my soothing music? I don't have soothing music. Oh, no, it's not that either. Ignore the cricket one. The applause one I thought was appropriate. Right, hold on. Where's my soothing music? I don't have soothing music. All right, okay, let's do this. Let's do this the hard way. Right. The text is very small on my screen. I'm not, like, looking at you meanly. I'm literally trying to read the text on this little screen. Okay, here we go. Almost there. Right, we're there. So the invitation is coming to you, and I'll come into your group and spend a little bit of time with you as normal shortly. It's working. 5 seconds, 4 seconds. When everyone comes back into the main room, like how it's a bit of a jolt. Is it a bit of a jolt?
Surprise.
It's a surprise, isn't it? Yeah. Which is not necessarily a surprise that's going to inform the analysis. Like, I wouldn't stick a couple of terminals and hook it up to a car battery and then pick the transcript up and go, oh, that's a shock. I'll use that. So I suppose there's different ways of getting to the surprise. The surprise is a good thing. Like, the surprise is just a tactic. You don't have to look for surprises, but that's some ways that you can find things in the text that are new and worth exploring. Anyway, what I want to do, now we're all back in the room, so thanks so much. There's some really interesting discussion. I came into some of the groups, when I came in early on, there was something really interesting happening, and I'll give you that reflection maybe after we just open it. Do you want that reflection now or later, after you've all spoken? I've now set it up, haven't I? So, yeah, okay. But the thing I think it might have shifted after I left some groups. But as you started, there was a sense you were trapped in that mindset of critiquing. That you started thinking, why did the interviewer ask that, or why did the interviewee say that? And it was almost like you in a process of critiquing. So critiquing the interviewer, critiquing the interviewee, kind of thinking what was wrong with them or what was wrong with their answer. How were they deficient? And it was like you in that kind of sort of a diagnostic space, but also that space where you've been trained to kind of say why things are wrong. And you also some of you started off in that space of kind of focused on the method. And that's partly because this is a methods unit. So you're critiquing the method and thinking how you might have done the method differently. It's interesting that psychology, we focus so much on method that sometimes we lose the sense of the data. You know, that thing about Milgram, we're so obsessed about what he did, we forget about what he found. So there's that risk that you get tripped up on methodological critique, which is the sort of dark art that you've been trained in psychology to critique method. And you completely forget about the data. But then I saw people starting to shift their focus onto the data. And once you've lost that sort of, oh, they're wrong about this and they're wrong about that, which is sort of, I think, the way you've been trained to critique, and then starting listening to what the person was saying and using that, oh, I wouldn't have said that. Isn't it interesting that they said that? I wonder why. Then it started getting really interesting. Okay, over to you. So should we just do a free for all as usual, or do you want to use the virtual hand up in Zoom to speak? How would you like to do this? It involves
Probably
Sorry, go on.
virtual hand. I didn't use it, but
The virtual hand. Okay, I'll keep an eye on the virtual hand. So, okay, I see no virtual hands at the moment. I suppose even that's a virtual hand, isn't it? Because it's actually on screen. But anyone like to say? Like, just anyone speak? Like, let's forget about the hands up because we've got no one wanting to speak. Anyone want? Like, Rebecca, you're leaning in. You're doing the lean in. Is that you coming in?
I can lean in to speak, I suppose. It's possible. Not really desirable. We were talking about a lot of different things, and good points about, say, what surprised us in the interview. And something that did come up was about within the transcript, there was this sense of contradiction or a sense of a shift. The interviewee was shifting almost ontological and epistemological positions. So what the position they were coming from when they were expressing their ideas around it they were coming from a different thought system, you know, like whether it was the scientific or what was the social or they were being relativist or realist. Yeah, is that the two different ones? I forget, but yeah. Now I'm nervous. There's more people here, so.
It was such a good point. That was that point where it's that you've captured the surprise, because if you say that, I don't know how other people feel in the group. Maybe you saw the same thing in the transcript. It's the point where you just go, ontology? I don't remember reading that. How is it related to ontology? It's that element of, oh, how is it about that? How's it about shifting? Did she shift? It's that moment where you go back to the text going, oh, I didn't realize that was going on, is a sign that, yes, you're capturing something that wasn't immediately obvious from reading it at the surface level. And what your marker will probably do, they'll probably go, if you say a theme was ontological shifts or something, they would go, oh, okay, did they say ontology anywhere? And they'll probably do a little word search in the transcript saying, did they say ontology? No, they didn't. Oh, this looks interesting. So that's probably an indicator that you do have it might be a latent code that you're picking up, something that sits behind the text. And that's a different way of getting the surprise. One surprise is, oh, she said that. I wonder why she said that, which is using a surprise, rather than she said that, well, she's wrong. So you go, oh, she said that. I wonder why she said that. So that's using surprise that way. And the other way of using surprise is when you look at your theme and go, would that surprise someone if I said that this is what I thought they were talking about? And if it would, that gives you that indication that you might have revealed something that wasn't immediately obvious. Which is what a surprise is, really, isn't it? It's like going, ta-da! Ooh, where did that come from? So I thought that was really, really good. What do the other two groups think about?
I'm with you. I'm just trying to think, and I'm probably going to say something which will embarrass me. I'm just thinking, what is the surprise? Because you say it's a surprise, but is the surprise that psychology students haven't made up their minds at this point? Or is the surprise that people have different views? I mean, what I'm being very pedantic here. So what is a surprise? We all have different views. There are different views of looking at psychology. It's logically going to come out. People are going to have different views on these things, which is fair. That one would expect that, actually. So I'm not quite sure I'm asking.
You're onto the right track, Peter, because it is that thing. The fact that you think you might embarrass yourself by asking this is a good sign, because it's that thing where the surprise is very personal, and it's just a technique. So it's like if you read that transcript and go, "Oh my God, like she hasn't figured this out yet," and you raise that as that's really interesting that she hasn't figured it out yet. That surprises me that someone in their third year or fourth year or whatever hasn't yet figured this stuff out. And you use that to springboard. You're still on the surface there, because she said it. If she said it, you're still on the surface. You go, she said that she hasn't figured this out. That surprises me. And you springboard from that into thinking, why is she saying that? What's going on there? So it's that springboarding into curiosity. It's that thing that I hadn't thought about that, or I think differently about that. I wonder what's going on with her. So you are using your own views to inform that moment where you go, oh, I didn't expect that. I wonder what's going on. And sorry, go on. Yep.
Okay, this is personal. I actually feel a bit afraid of this assignment and using my subjectivity, because I do have to get really deeply honest with what I think about these topics too as I'm reading it. And then I'm afraid that by, getting really deeply honest about what I'm thinking about this stuff too, and then using that to formulate a response, like I feel like I'm going to get punished. It's not how I'm supposed to be writing an assignment. Yeah.
It feels wicked, doesn't it? It just feels wrong. Saying like, I got to put my own views in there. But it's exactly what you do for qualitative.
What if they're the wrong views, right? Like what if they're not the view that you marker wants to read? I need to manipulate that. I
Okay.
don't nearly, but I have this sense like.
So if you got a view that everyone who's got a diagnosis of mental illness should be boiled in acid, then yeah, you probably want to just tone it down a bit, saying that surprises me that this person says such compassionate words because I think they should all be killed at birth. Yeah, I could imagine you might want to think, okay, let's just tone that down a little bit. I'm not writing for President Trump. I'm gonna, probably a liberal leaning. So yeah, I get what you mean there. But so as long as you're not expressing deeply fascist views, I would say, you'd be fine. So you can say, look, I think mental health is a medical issue. I think it's a brain disease. And this person was questioning it, and that got me intrigued. You'd be absolutely fine. Or you could say, look, I think mental illness is a social construction, but when the person was talking about it, they seemed to have trouble placing it. They didn't seem quite convinced by it. I wonder what's going on. So for one, don't worry. Your marker's not going to judge you on the validity of your views because they can't actually, because that's how you feel, that's how you think, you're not gonna lose any marks for doing that. And the other part of it, as well as being judged because you're making yourself transparent and clear, that's actually probably one of the reasons why psychologists don't like doing this. It makes us quite vulnerable when we tell other people what we think, because then we can be challenged. The other part of it is that thinking about you have to remain objective. And it takes a while to shift that view to understand that subjectivity is actually really important. And it's the thing, you couldn't read that transcript unless you have lived experience that you can relate to it. So you put yourself in the shoes of a student, or you think of how do I relate to this? You just can't read, or you can't function in the world unless you interpret everything based on your own experiences. Like we do that. The trick with qualitative is that we do it all the time, and we just have to be really transparent about it. So for you can pick out that thing in the transcript that surprised you, and then when you say it surprised you, you say why. And that's where you give your own view. And that's in that bit of the criteria. If you don't do it, you can still get a really good grade. But in the criteria, that's where personal comes into the HD category. It's where you engage professionally and personally.
It is interesting because I spend a lot of my time when I'm not like deep listening or whatever, judging the world through what I think about it in that moment and criticizing it. It's not just like the training that's taught me to do that. Like I spend a lot of time thinking I know what's right and that kind of thing. So I got a bit curious about what I'm feeling about it as well as what I'm reading in the interview.
Yeah.
It's all, yeah.
And it's a good way of using our views. It's rather than the worst way to use your own experience and your own views and your own thoughts is to look for confirmation of it in the interview. It's that bit where you get annoyed by what they've said, or confused by what they've said, or challenged by what they've said. That's the point where you've got most likelihood of developing some good analysis, because you've got questions. If you look for the things that you agree with, then you're not going to ask questions about it, because you already know this stuff. Townsville, you've got your hand up. You want to come in on this?
Just what you were saying before about like how we bring in our own subjectivity and our own experiences and everything into that. I guess it kind of, within the transcript, I found it really interesting that I guess the interviewee totally bypassed that whole element of it. Even though they were talking about contextual factors, they kind of bypassed I guess, the way people are influenced by their experiences, the way that psychology students bring in experiences into psychology. And I think it was, to me, it seemed a bit detached because it was all about those external experiences and the way that, the media affects people, the way that education system affects people. And it was this very detached approach where it was nothing about what that individual has actually experienced or what, I guess like the preconceived notions they bring into psychology is everything about what they're taught, all about what they're exposed to, not about what they've experienced themselves. So I guess that detached kind of stance was interesting to me, and it just kind of reminded me of it again when you were speaking about how we're meant to bring our subjectivity, but it's like ironically that's not really is what is happening in the transcript itself.
And it's a really good reflection. And what's so good is the way there's the pointers that you're in the right direction here. One is that, you found it interesting, which is that intrigued, what's going on here, but also the words you're using to describe how you got this thing, which is like, I sensed that, or I felt that. And those words often are used when we're not sure if it's there, but we feel it might be there. And that's that thing. That's an indication that you're probably looking under the text, because you're entering into that thing of, I'm not sure if this was what was behind it, but I sense that there was this detachment going on. So it's that thing where they didn't say they're detached, but it sounded as though the way that they were describing things is kind of got that sense of being detached. And what you do there is then you pick out a quote and say, look at this quote, and here's where I'm picking that up, that sort of sense of detachment. And then you can bring in the surprise, and this is surprising given what they're talking about. So it's all of that is a really good indication that you're onto the right track, that you found something interesting because you hadn't maybe thought of it before, or it surprised you in relation to what they were saying. And it was a sense of a thing that you're not sure if it's there, which is a sign that it's not obvious from the text that it's there. And the other interesting thing is that sometimes the meaning is in what's not in the text rather than what is. Like that thing where how interesting it is that they didn't mention this thing. And it's interesting that they didn't mention this thing, and that becomes an indication of a theme. So all of those are indications that you're moving beyond the text. So I think that's great. Does that make sense? Okay, everyone goes quiet now.
Can
Go
I ask something about big Q qualitative, right? And it was, I was wondering, so to me, it does make it, so I have an idea, I suppose, that, quantitative research, a lot of the researchers have got, something that they want to prove, or maybe that's the way it's, put out by the media. I don't know. Anyway, with big Q, so if a researcher does an interview and then is running a thematic analysis, do they have a goal in mind too? And they're kind of doing the same thing when they're coding and doing latent coding that's coming from their own subjective experiences? Like, is all research coming from there is a goal in mind that needs to be proved?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And it all does, but there's a point at which, so for quantitative, you come up with your hypothesis, you come up with your answer, then you test whether your answer is true or not, isn't it? So you come up with your theory, you develop your hypotheses, and then you test the null hypothesis, which is the thing that would prove you wrong, in order to try and reject it so that you prove that you're right. So you make your mind up about a thing, and it might be because you read about the thing, that you've experienced the thing, whatever it is. For some reason, you think this is what's going on, and you test that out. With qualitative, the intention is that it comes in when you don't know what's going on, when you don't know what the answer is, that you don't have a theory to test, but you're trying to develop your understanding. But as you go through the process, you start uncovering those things where, actually, I do think I know what the answer is. I've got to trouble it. So it's almost like the subjectivity comes in where we think we don't know what's going on, but actually we've got all of these preconceptions that are informing our inquiry. So actually deep down we do think we do think we know. Like we're making assumptions, and with quantitative you're supposed to bring all your assumptions up to the front and then you test them. With qualitative you're supposed to push them all down and discover new things rather than test things. But it's a bit of a lie, because no one comes in as a blank sheet. No one comes in without preconceptions about a thing. So it's having to surface those to make them transparent. So it's that thing where, that's why surprise is useful, because a surprise can surface your expectations. So when you go, I was surprised that she sounded so detached. Why am I surprised about that? Because I would expect this to be really important. Like I would expect people to invest emotional energy into this stuff because it's mental health or why am I surprised they're shifting? Because I imagine there needs to be consistency here. I'd have thought they would have figured this out. But they seem to be shifting all over the place. That surprises me, because my expectation is that they should be in one lane. So that's why surprise is useful, because it brings out your expectations, your assumptions, and the answer that you already have to the question you're asking. And what we need to do in qualitative is to trouble that. So we're not testing our knowledge, but we're actually troubling our knowledge and looking for a different way of thinking about it. Because half the time, when you do research, it's because there's a problem in the way people are thinking about a thing. And we need to go in and trouble those ways of thinking about this thing. And half the time we're the problem, because it's the way that we're thinking about the thing that's the problem.
So can we address those problems in the assignment? And say perhaps that Emily may suggest that universities are a problem with perpetuating a particular realism view, or no?
You can. If this is a full write-up, then definitely. If this is a part of a big, like you're doing your analysis and then doing your discussion and conclusion and doing a full report, definitely. But I can tell you where you could start bringing that in. Because one of the things that sort of test out, like, why did you pick that theme? It's because it surprised me. But another is that because it changes the way we think about this thing. And it's a useful, like, it's almost like, so when you're kind of counter-arguing, you're thinking like, I'm thinking about this ontological shifting or this detachment, right? There's my theme. If you look at that category of critiquing, where you're looking at the critique, or you're looking for the counter-argument, that could be where you bring it in. You say, well, maybe it's not about shifting ontological position. Maybe it's not about detachment. Maybe it's about something else. And you think, but yeah, it could be about something else. But this theme would be transformative. It would really make us think about, actually, maybe if half the problem with thinking about student mental health is that we're constantly on shifting ground, that there's so many inconsistencies in approach, that might help us understand why we're not able to help, why student mental health is so bad. Maybe it's because that shifting position that's coming from a psychology student is actually coming from psychology, and might explain why we're so bad at providing support services, because we're doing contradictory things all of the time. So there, it's kind of, you're testing out the strength of your theme by thinking about how useful is it. And then here it's about how would this theme contribute to developing a solution to the problem? Does that make sense?
Oh, you went from the opposite side.
Thinking, yeah, the counter argument's definitely about thinking about on the opposite side. So thinking about the alternative to your theme. It's so go on.
I think
KJ.
everybody has a different opinion. Somebody may say that the university is responsible. Somebody may say that the students are responsible as they are not taking the full advantage. Others can say, that the things are not properly informed. Actually, I'll just give you a small example. I was having a difficulty yesterday while I was doing an extra class, and I was all the time asking, where is the question? We have got the answer, but where is the question? So they were not able to understand. I was not able to make them understand. Eventually, we understood that that is the text, and the text will be given by you while you're giving us the class. And then it got to my mind, I thought that what has happened is you have given us a transcript, but you have given us a example of how to do it. But you have not given us the question from where you have taken that, how to do it. So I was not able to connect, let's say, for example, you take one small paragraph and then you start explaining, this is what I mean, this is what I mean, this is what I mean. And then we get a better view. But if you just take off the paragraph and just put the result in front of us, it becomes a little bit confusing. From where did you get this? So eventually, what I thought was I will speak to you today and ask where is the original text, so that we can some way confirm. Okay, if I read this, and this seems to be the opinion of somebody X, so I have to form my own opinion.
Yes, in terms of the analysis, a couple of interesting things there, KJ. Yeah, there was a deliberate strategy in giving you a transcript of an interviewer using the type of interviewing style I'm kind of wanting you to interview. I think how I want you to interview. So there was a sort of a little bit of subtext there to help you with the interview task to keep that consistent. But you're right. What I'm asked, there is no, like the thing that can be really difficult about this assessment is thinking that in some assessments, the marker has got their answer sheet, but we don't give away our answer sheet. We're waiting for you to come up and match the answer that we've got. And this is not what we've got for this assessment. So there is no right or wrong answer. We don't have this list of themes saying, I wonder if they'll spot this theme. I wonder if they'll spot that theme. If they do, they're going to get their HD. We don't actually have a list of themes. So it's very much, it comes from you. And the right answer will look right to us once you've explained it to us, if that makes sense. So it's that notion that there isn't actually, there isn't a theme that's sitting there waiting for you to discover it. There's no pre-existing themes in these things. There are themes for you to construct from it. Does that make sense?
I understand that. What I understood is that basically the example is the way you write it, and the themes are to be found out from the assignment that has been given. And it is not that you must get a particular theme. It is just that whatever you get, you just write it down and explain it. That's all.
Yeah, and the less obvious the theme is to me, the better it probably is, unless it's completely, off the planet. In which case it's going to be interesting to see how you go from your theme to explaining how you got it. Like if your theme was, I don't know, tadpole sex or something, what the hell is that about? Sex between, actually, tadpoles don't have sex, frogs have sex. So one, biologically inaccurate, but So if you picked a theme out like that, I'd probably go, how the hell that's completely, you on magic mushrooms or something. That's how you got that theme. You won't be able to explain it. But if it'll be that, I'll get that surprise, but then I'll go, that's disappointing. It just came out of, hallucinogenics.
can we defend against a position, say, between like a surface element and then a deeper, like if we give voice to some theme we find that's really deeper, the alternate position we can kind of defend against could be a surface meaning, not like an opposite meaning to that particular theme, but something that relates to it on the surface. Is that?
That could be a really counter argument. Don't set up a straw man argument. Don't go for that sort of obvious thing. Like, you want a kind of strong counter argument. So, but that would be a really effective way of doing it, saying, here's this quote. This is the theme that I've developed from it, and this is how I connect that theme to what they've said. And then you could go, but it looks as you could argue that they're just talking about this thing, that they're just talking about X, because they're talking about, it's clear, they've mentioned X. It's all about X. But the reason I think it's not about X, it's about Y, because Y captures something else that's really important. And X is just really, that would be actually a really nice way of doing it. You could say X would just be, you could name it, that would just be a semantic code. It sits on the surface, but it doesn't actually explain things. Whereas this thing explains this and other parts of the text. So that could be a really effective way of putting up an alternative theme and saying it's weak because it's just, it seems they're talking about mental health, but actually they're talking about something else here. They're talking about politics. Go on, KJ.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
I
got it. What you're saying is I got it. Man, you just have to make your own theme and connect everything together and put your case in the way you want to present it.
Yeah.
The marks are paid on what assessment you make and what responses you give.
Yeah.
And not on being right or wrong, whether you got the right theme or the wrong theme or anything.
Yeah, it's very much about that. There's no right or wrong. Well, to say that until we mark this thing, so that's clearly wrong. But yeah, it's that. There's no right. It's just well argued. Well argued, and it's clear where that theme comes from, how you were professionally and personally engaged in it, how you've considered other ways of thinking about it, but why you think this explains things.
I sometimes think we have to be something like a detective and a lawyer.
It's kind of like it's being a detective, but it's kind of almost being a part to the crime. It's that thing that it's difficult. Once you shift out of that, a lot of the training you've had is that kind of idea that knowledge is out there waiting for you to discover it. And we're in that territory of knowledge is out there waiting for you to construct it. So it's not, you're not going to go out with a spade and dig up your treasure. There's no buried treasure in the transcript.
Mm-hmm.
The themes come from you engaging with that text. It's the same way with an interview. Like, the magic happens when it's a discussion between the interviewer and the interviewee. And the same happens in the analysis. It's that interaction, you bringing your sense making to the transcript. And the value is that because we're similar in some ways, but we're different in other ways, and making use of that difference can help surface things that that other people might not have seen. Yeah.
In other words, it's opinion based.
It's opinion based, but it's more argument based, I would say. So the opinion helps to inform the inquiry.
Yeah.
But you're not trying to confirm your opinions, but you're using your opinions to find points of interest that unsettle those opinions. So it's like, being surprised. Like, we've all done this, haven't we? Like, we have a preconception about a person, and then they start singing, and they surprise us because we didn't realize that they could sing so beautifully. And why didn't I think that they could sing? It's that thing. It's that. I'm thinking about the Voice TV program, but it's that sort of thing. That surprise when you see the person, you didn't expect that from them, and it's almost that same thing when you hear someone talk about a topic. Look for the things you didn't expect, and that can be a really useful way into analysis, because it's those moments of unsettling assumptions, and that's where subjectivity comes in. So you bring your subjectivity, your own views and opinions, come in as a way to not seeking, with the quantitative way is you seek to confirm what you know. With qualitative, we're seeking to disrupt it, because clearly what we know isn't helping the world very much.
Alternate opinion, and trying to base your thinking on the alternate opinion, and then supporting it with what you find in the transcript.
Yeah, and it's just a springboard. So, you know, you don't,
Yeah.
for your assignment, you don't want to go, my views of mental health are this, and then you start expanding on it, and then you completely forget about your data. You know, it's just a little bit that just brings you into your analysis. So you go, I think mental health is a brain malfunction. I think it's brain chemistry. And that notion got disrupted by the way this person talked about this thing. And that got me interested, thinking, where does this come from? And that's all you need to do. And then it's about what they're saying. And it's avoiding, because early on, every group did this. You're trained to kind of go, she's saying it's what? Well, that's wrong. You know, we're trained to question in a way that kind of seeks right or wrong. And you want to get into that mode of questioning, which goes, that's interesting. Okay, I think they're wrong, but I want to hear more. And you start losing that sense of they're wrong the more you start thinking about it and thinking, okay, how does this act? Does this tell me something I don't yet know? And that's really what we're after, isn't it? It's finding out the thing that we don't already know. And that's ultimately what research is supposed to be. You know, it's about not finding out if we're right or wrong, but finding out something that we don't already know. And that's that distinction, quantitative. That's where that quant-qual distinction comes in. Quant is really about finding out if we're right or wrong about what we think. And qual is trying to find a different way of thinking about it. Now it's 20 past. Angela, you've got your hand up.
I just wanted to know why you wanted us to question how we would reword, or how the interviewee would have answered differently. Why? What were you wanting us to look at there? Like, can I ask that question?
Yeah, it's tied to the criteria, which is about that professional personal engagement. So it's that commitment and rigor, where you are engaging with it at a professional and personal level. So it's that point where you go, well, I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have talked about it in that way. I wonder why they did. And that's the springboard. That gets the curiosity going. And then when you're describing your theme, you can do that. And that's what's going to pick you up those points, which is showing that you're engaged with it by going, that's not how I would have spoken about that. And that's what started to intrigue me. And I got curious. And then the more I read it, it started to surface something that I hadn't thought about before and then surprised me. And this is this thing that surprised me. And that's a way of picking up. This is one way of showing your subjective, trying to get you used to that kind of naturalizing your subjective engagement with your text to show you a way into doing this. And you think of it like it's the thing we really need. Like anytime anyone reviews a movie, we don't know whether it's a good movie or not unless we know a bit about them. You know, like if someone goes into a movie and goes, it's the best movie ever, and you go in and it scares the pants off you. You didn't realize they love horror and gore. You know, they think the best movies are full of horror and gore and decapitation and things. So you go in, unless you love horror, gore, and decapitation, you're not going to have a fun time. So they need to say, this is a great movie, and I love horror movies, and this is why I loved this movie. Then you'll know whether to go and see that movie thinking, oh yeah, I like horror. I'm like that person. I'll probably enjoy it too. So it's kind of, it's something we expect it's a normal part of life. But for some reason in research, they don't tell us about themselves when they're reporting. You know, would I have found that in the data? Probably not, because I don't sound as though I'm like them. Or would I have found that in the data? Yeah, I probably would have seen that too, because I'm sort of like that person too. You know, it's like you can't judge what someone's found unless you know how they were looking for it and why. I'll leave you with the Sherlock test, because I told Townsville the Sherlock test. This is where I probably have to turn off the record. I'll stick it. I won't say the word. And I'll do a video about get this posted up on YouTube. I'll send you the script if you want the script. Where's chat? I haven't looked at chat. Oh, chat has gone off. Sorry. Has anyone been in chat? Have I missed lots of things in chat? I don't. Oh, just people saying goodbye, and I never got to say goodbye to them. So sorry, Yvonne, if you're watching this. You said bye. Lovely to see you. And Michael, yeah, sorry, you got already. Lovely to see you too. So if you want the script, I'll send the script, but the video should come out in about a week or two, so there'll be plenty of time. It's the Sherlock test. So you develop a theme, and imagine, say, putting the following phrase in front of the theme when you're telling either the participant the theme you've come up with, or you're telling me the theme. And you go, it's almost as though you're saying that. So if you put that phrase in front of your theme, so it's almost as though you're saying that mental health is blah, blah, blah. Or it's almost as though you're saying that. So you'd put that phrase in front of your theme and then imagine what the reaction would be. And if the reaction would be, well, obviously, it's almost as though I was saying that. I was actually saying that. So if it's almost as though you're saying that students are confused about mental health. Yes, I was actually saying that. I actually said that. Yes. No, Sherlock. If you ask that thing, it's almost as though you're saying that, blah, 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 blah. And the response is, oh, that's interesting. That's an indication that you're probably getting something that's latent, sitting beneath the text. So it's not the thing the person said, but something that sits behind what they said. Does that make sense? Maybe this Sherlock test is a load of nonsense.
Mani, you have an alternative thought.
Say again, KJ?
You have an alternative thought. It is almost as if you're saying this, but I understand this.
Yeah. There's something, it's like there's something else going on below the surface. Yeah, it's not what we might imagine. There's something, it's like that detachment, there's something else going on in this transcript, and it's detachment. They're not talking about detachment, but look at how they're talking. There's a sense of detachment that's sitting underneath of this. So you'd say to the person, it's almost as though you're saying you're detached. And the person goes, why are you saying that? Because they've not said that they're detached. So then it gets them intrigued. Why do you think that? And it's like you saying to someone, it's almost as though you're saying you're shifting your ontology. And they go, what? They go, what the hell's ontology? But they go, shifting ontology. Why do you say that? What's it? Tell me more about that. It's that point where you've given something back in your analysis that's not immediately obvious, either to the person talking or the person who's reading the transcript. And at that point they go, oh, okay. And that's where you've moved beyond description and summary, and you've moved into analysis. It's the thing about the Jaws movie. I keep going on about Jaws. Jaws is a movie about a shark, which is descriptive and summative. The other version is Jaws is a movie about capitalism or something. And you go, what? Capitalism? Where's capitalism in that? How's that about capitalism? It's that second reading is that, because movies are never, good movies are never about what you initially think they're about. There's something else going on. It's about, yeah. Okay, we leave it there because I'm going on and on. Would you like to stay in the room for a little longer and I can hand over the hosting? I promised I'd do this at 1:15 rather than 1/2. But I've got to run. Does anyone like to? Would you like to keep the room open? In which case, I can hand over the hosting.
I've got to go. So thank you.
Okay. I'll give it. Let me play my theme tune, and then it'll give people the opportunity to leave. And if anyone's left, then they can give them hosting of the room to carry on. Here we go. Can you hear my music? This is the cheesy bit. I didn't pick up someone last time, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, said that they couldn't leave unless I said ta-da. It's like they've been trained. So I'll go ta-da.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. Ta-da.
Australia.
Ta-da. Ta-da. Actually, that's a surprise, isn't it? I've got to rethink that. Ta-da. Ta-da. Hey, I could have made something of that all along. All along there was a surprise, wasn't there, in the ending? Ta-da. 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 All right, these are the people who are staying. Okay, sorry, I'm making it. Are you staying or having trouble leaving? Townsville, are you... Melissa? Townsville, Melissa's gone. You're waving to say, please go away? I can't turn off Zoom.
No, I was saying bye.
That's okay. I'll get you.
Thank you so much for today.
It's lovely it's lovely to see you guys. And Yvonne, are you good? You're good. I shall say goodbye. Where are you gone? See you next time.